Hi there, Bearcats and Dragons. Welcome to the very last lesson of our Folktale Fable project. Way to go, sticking to it and trying your very best each and every day over the last few weeks. So today what we're going to do is we're going to look over our stories. Now that we've written the beginning, the middle, and the end, we've included a moral, we have dialogue, we need to double check each part of our story to make sure it's the best it can be. I'm going to show you our rubric that we're going to use to grade the story so you can check it over and make sure you meet each one of the standards. So we're going to take a look at our rubric one line at a time. Then we're going to check to make sure the story has everything it needs. Then we'll go to the next line and check it over again, just like we used to do in class. So here is our rubric. It might be a little hard to read right now. Don't worry. I will include a PDF version in the lesson, and I will include this slide for you to check over inside of your slides where your story is as well. So this has 6 different categories. We're going to make sure our punctuation is the best it can be. The capitalization looks good. We have our story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. We've used that dialogue on each and every page. We have a problem and a solution that work together in the story. And of course, our folktale must have a moral and is showing that a character learned a lesson. Here's how we're going to use our rubric today. We're going to start up at the top. We're going to go all the way over. We don't want a 4. We don't want a 6. We don't want an 8. We want all 10 of those points. We can get that if we have all of the correct punctuation in our story. So I'm going to think about all the correct punctuation. I'm going to keep that in my brain, and I'm going to go look through the beginning, the middle, and the end of my story and just focus on punctuation. As I'm reading through my story, I might notice, once upon a time, a bear named Grumpy Bear lived in a beautiful forest. One day, wait a minute. This is a new sentence. But I don't have punctuation here. Oh no. So I need to stop, click here, and add my punctuation. This is a telling sentence, so I'm including my period. I'm going to double check every single sentence in my whole story just like that. And if I'm missing it, I'm going to go, wait a minute. I'm going to stop, and I'm going to add the correct punctuation. Double check and make sure every time you have talking, you've used those quotation marks to show where your talking is. You could go through every single page, the beginning, the middle, and the end of your story to check your punctuation. Once you've checked all the punctuation in the whole story, you can go back up and say to yourself, check. And you can go to your capitalization. We want to make sure all of our capitals are correct. I know the most important things to capitalize are the names of my characters and the beginning of a sentence. So I would think about that, keep it in my brain, and go back through each part of my story and make sure I have capital letters. I checked through this before I recorded this video, and I know I have my capital letters here. Let me check here and make sure I have all my capital letters. Ooh, there's a capital T. Then Hummingbird came to see her friend. Hello, Grumpy Bear, she said. Wait a minute. Grumpy Bear. Isn't that his name? So I need to stop. I'm going to click right after the G in Grumpy. I'm going to backspace it one time. I'm going to hold down my shift button and tap that G to make it a capital G. And I need to do the same thing with his formal last name, Bear. I want to make sure I'm capitalizing his whole name. So I clicked right after that letter. I backspaced it. I held down the shift button and I put a capital B. Now I have Grumpy Bear written correctly. His name is Grumpy Bear, so we need to have those capital letters. Okay, I would go through every single piece of our rubric. I'm not going to walk you through every single part of it now. You can double check this yourself and ask a family member to help you to make sure you have 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10 through the whole thing. You've worked hard. Show off what you've learned by making sure everything's as best as it can be. Once you've done that, you're just about ready to turn in your story. But guess what? You can add pictures. So if you'd like to add pictures, you don't have to. That's not on the rubric. You're not going to get graded down if you don't have pictures, but if you wanted to add a little picture, you can. If you wrote your story out, of course, you can draw pictures on your pages and retake the picture and resubmit it. If you'd like to add pictures and you've been typing your story, I can show you how to do that here. So I would go to my page on the beginning of my story. And now, remember, I left these reminders here for you. Now that I've written out my story, I don't need this reminder. So I'm going to click, and I'm just going to get rid of this box. Now I have this nice blank space. I'm going to go up, 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 follow my arrow to insert. I'm going to click it. I'm going to stop on image. An image is another word for a picture. I'm going to go, either I can upload a picture that's already on my computer, or I can click this search the web. Watch what happens. Whoa. I have all these crazy cool things that I can add. So I was looking for a swing set earlier, and those images are still up, or pictures are still up. But I could type in what kind of picture I think would match this part of my story. This is the beginning of my story, and it was Grumpy Bear, and he was trying to build things. So I might type in bear and drawing, because I don't want a picture of a real bear for my story. I want it to be a cartoon bear or drawing. So I'm going to type that in, and I'm going to hit enter. Look at all these really neat pictures. Aw, he doesn't look too grumpy. He looks a little bit grumpy. I think I like this bear. So I'm going to click it. Now there's a check mark on him. Then I can come down here and I can click insert. There he is. He popped right up. I can hold and drag just like I did in other lessons for writing, how we can drag things around. I can drag him around, and I can make him smaller or bigger. Oop, I didn't drag him there. So if I have my cross, I can drag him. If I just have one arrow, then I make him bigger. So again, if there's a cross, you can drag him. If there's an arrow, you can make him bigger or smaller. Well, that's too big. He's covering up my important words. I'm going to drag him. I'm going to put him right there in the middle. There's my Grumpy Bear. Now I have a picture to go along and match what's going on in my story. I also chose to put a bear and a hummingbird in the middle of the story. And then I have a beautiful swing set all fixed and ready to be played on at the end of my story too. If you'd like to include pictures, you may, but it's not required. I just thought it would be a nice, fun way to finish out our stories. So once you've checked over each part of your rubric and added pictures if you wanted to, you are all done. You did it. Good job. Good job. Double check everything in your story and then mark it as done. And you are all finished creating your very own folktale. Way to go, Bearcats. Way to go, Dragons. Way to go, first graders. You should be very proud of yourselves. See you next week for a brand new writing unit.